I am sure that our senator colleague, with his legal prowess, has done a good job at putting together what really we ought to do in terms of the way forward. And so, in that regard, we're able to agree with that part. But as it relates to bringing it the way it is brought to the Senate. Someone said, and we continue to say this in Belize, ignorance to the law is no excuse. And as far as we understand it, the way things go in Belize is that we must adhere to the way things ought to be done, and that is to the law and how the law relates to us. In this particular chamber, we have a responsibility to make sure that if anybody set the standard as to following the law, that we do. And in that regard, when we looked at the fact that the bill is coming, or the motion is coming to us through the Senate, it caused wonder whether this is the way things ought to go, or if there's a shift, and it's coming from another direction.
For those members on the other side who seem not to know the history, who seem not to know the facts, there are no negotiations between Belize and Guatemala seeking to resolve the dispute. And let me say this, Mr. President. Ms. Attorney General says, but suppose the referendum failed. Then we have to negotiate. And I say, so what? So what? You see, Mr. President and members of the Senate, we must read the Maritime Areas Act, because Senator Holtz just talked about repeating the Maritime Areas Act. We can't repeat the Maritime Areas Act. The Maritime Areas Act prescribes what our maritime areas are. Every country in the world has a law that prescribes what its maritime areas is. But we must understand what this proposed amendment seeks to do. This amendment, Mr. President and members of the Senate, seeks to repeal those provisions in the Maritime Areas Act that would have allowed for some possibility in settlement by way of negotiations in which Belize would not have claimed all that it was entitled to under international law. What we on this side are saying no is this. Those negotiations have gone on for over 4 decades, and they have not produced a result. We are to go to the ICJ if our people approve it. And if our people do not approve it, we say amend the Maritime Areas Act to ensure that if there is any negotiations after that, there will be no compromise on the maritime areas of Belize. It is therefore, Mr. President and members of the Senate, completely counterintuitive for members of the Senate on the government side to not vote in favor of a bill that will make it very clear to Guatemala and to all the world that that possibility of a negotiated settlement on the maritime side is over and cannot happen again. That we have closed the door on that, and that will never be a part of any possible discussion.